It is the 1st of September, so it is the season of all things pumpkin spice. And in my last book, my most recent book, Keto Living Day by Day, there's a recipe for a Dutch baby. And the Dutch baby, the recipe is also on my website, so if you don't have the book, don't worry, you can get the recipe. But the Dutch baby has been incredibly popular because it is so easy to make. That's my cameraman running into things. It is so easy to make. So we're going to make a pumpkin spice version. And for those of you who have missed me, there's David bumping into things and the grandfather clock going off, and Lord knows the dogs will probably come running through and the kids, and he knows what's going to happen, right? But anyway, I know one thing that's going to happen. We're going to make a pumpkin spice Dutch baby. So we're going to start really, really simple. Now, in the cookbook, I give the directions for using a 10-inch pie plate. I actually have found these guys, and if you have that, use it. But I found these guys at the Dollar Tree. Love the Dollar Tree. And so you get a set of 3. So this is 2 of my 3, and they come with these little covers. So after they bake, you can slip the cover on, you can label it with what it is, and it's great. You can take it off to work or to share or to, whatever potluck you're doing, and not worry about getting your dish back. And so these actually cook pretty evenly, so I like them. I put them on a baking sheet because they're a little flimsy. And so I put them on the baking sheet so I can put them in and out of the oven easily. The first step we're going to make our Dutch baby is we're going to put 3 tablespoons, not ounces, that would be 6 ounces, or 6 tablespoons, 3 ounces of unsalted butter. Now, if you know Kerrygold, you know I'm using salted. That's what I have. I'm out of the unsalted, and I did measure this ahead of time. So this is about 3 tablespoons. It's butter. If we get too much, I'm not going to sweat it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to hand this off, and it's going to go in the oven to melt. Now you want to keep a close eye on it. Because that butter will burn. But while the butter melts, when it's sizzling hot, we're going to make our Dutch baby. Now this is so easy, and I think that's why people have loved this recipe. And I make a savory one, so if you're someone who doesn't do sweeteners, you can make it savory. I'm making a double batch, or making 2. The recipe I'll give you is to make 1 or 2. Well, I can do that. And people have said that these get gone so quickly. I don't know how to use this thing. These get gone so quickly that they love the idea of being able to make 2. Okay, finally got this figured out. Basically, we're going to pour all of our ingredients in the blender or mixer. Make sure it's plugged in. Yep, it's plugged in. And just blend it up. We'll pour it back on top of that melted butter as soon as that melted butter is hot. So easy. Normally you do 4 eggs. I'm doubling it, so I've got 8. So we're going to put our eggs into the blender and try not to splash ourselves. I can see me doing that. This is just 4 pastured eggs. I love pastured eggs. And you know what? When I can find them and afford them, I get them. If you're lucky enough to have access to fresh eggs, then you're lucky enough. I'd love to have chickens in the backyard. Chickens running around eating bugs and making eggs. That's a cup of heavy cream. Normally you use a half cup. So generally it's 4 eggs, half cup of heavy cream. Recipe is in the cookbook, Keto Living Day by Day, and on my website, cookingketo.com. Cream cheese. Again, I'm doubling it, so I'm going from 2 ounces of cream cheese to 4 ounces of cream cheese. And it's slightly softened. It's not melted, as you can see, but it's slightly softened because it's been sitting out for a while we've been getting everything ready. The other thing that you add to the Dutch baby is whey protein isolate. And you've heard me talk a lot about the whey protein isolate. You don't want to use whey protein. That's highly insulinogenic. It's a big fancy word for it. Causes an insulin response even when it doesn't raise blood glucose. Whey protein isolate has the lactose and casein removed, so it's generally safe. There are 2 brands I prefer. J-Rob is one of them. J-Rob and Isopure. That's the other. I link to those in my website too, those brands. I tend to get them most inexpensively at Amazon, not least expensively. All right, I'm going to add to this my sweetener. Normally it's a 1/4 cup. We're doubling it, so it's a half cup. This is like a math test, isn't it? We're doubling ingredients. So I've started with my eggs, heavy cream, cream cheese, whey protein isolate, and I just added the sweetener. Now, a 1/4 cup for one of these is not very sweet, so you can adjust the sweetness to your taste, but I think with the pumpkin and everything, it's plenty sweet. And this makes more like a pumpkin custard. So if you wanted to make this really easy for the holidays, you could do that. I'm adding a half cup of pumpkin. If I was making one, I'd do a quarter cup of pumpkin. So half cup of pumpkin. This is pure pumpkin puree. And there's such a variation in moisture content. See how thick that is? If you can see, it's really very thick. There are some brands I found that are almost watery, and that's going to impact the texture. So I think I'm using Libby's canned pumpkin. David's nodding, he got the can out of the cabinet for me. And certainly this does not use anywhere close to a half can. So I'm gonna have to take that pumpkin and make something else, right, for Pumpkin Spice Week. Maybe I can make some pumpkin spice coffee, or something else, another surprise, pumpkin spice margarita. That's coming in my next book, Keto Gatherings. My Keto Gatherings book is a book for the holidays. And that book is coming out before Christmas, and it'll have pumpkin spice margarita in it, and I'm so excited. This is vanilla extract, 2 full teaspoons. Normally you'd use 1, but 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, because vanilla makes everything better, right? And then we're putting baking powder. That's a full teaspoon. Normally you use a half teaspoon. And then I'm going to add a little bit more. This is salt, a quarter teaspoon each, or 1/2 teaspoon total. I'm going to add, this is what makes it the pumpkin spice flavor. I'm leaving the lemon out. Normally you would put lemon in the Sweet Dutch Baby. This is cinnamon. This is Penzeys cinnamon. So I'm using probably a little less. I call for, I think, a half teaspoon. Penzeys is really strong. So you can adjust the cinnamon to your taste. And this is apple pie spice, another half teaspoon of apple pie spice. Now some people like to put ginger, and they like to put cloves, and they put all kinds of things in their pumpkin pie. I'm not that girl. I like it really kind of plain and not overly done. So the pumpkin pie spice and the cinnamon is plenty for me. Last ingredient we're gonna toss in here. I have to smell everything. This is maple extract. I have fallen in love with maple extract. I've learned that maple extract makes a great, if you just combine it with regular granulated sweetener, it makes a great, like a substitute for brown sugar. So everything's in there. Dip that in there just to clean out that spatula a little bit. And then we're just gonna put the lid on here and start it up. If I can, now this ninja and I don't always get along, so you'll probably see it getting, oops, I'm doing it wrong, right? No, David's not. David always has to fix this darn thing. Okay. There we go, let's try it. Scrape down the sides, and I'll give it a whirl. You want to let it go for like a full minute, because the more it blends, the more it gets air in it. Now what happens with a Dutch Baby, I don't know if you've ever had a traditional Dutch Baby made with sugar, but you put them in the oven, and you're putting it in at 400 degrees, which is pretty high heat, right, for baked goods. You're putting it in the oven, and what's going to happen, and people all the time ask me, what happened to my Dutch Baby? Be ready, because it'll puff up all nice and pretty and lopsided. It'll be all lopsided, like a lady with a big floppy hat. And there we go. And then as it comes out of the oven, it will deflate, and that is normal. It's perfectly normal. All right, let me let this go for a while, so just don't mind the noise. Sure if I let that go a full minute, but the longer it goes, the fluffier it is, the better texture this rascal has. So just trust me, put it on, walk away from it, and then go back. So the butter's all melted. Now I love making this in a cast iron skillet. So if I'm serving it for company, if this was like for a special occasion, I would put it in a really pretty cast iron skillet. But this, this is more practical. And then of course you want that butter sizzling, and you want to make sure this isn't terribly hot. So you want to make sure that the butter is coated all the way around the dish, because that way it'll keep it from sticking. So you can see I've got it coated pretty well. And then the challenge here in making two is going to be distributing it evenly. So just pour it in on top of the butter. Looks so pretty, and the butter will come up on top of it, and that's fine. I'm going to pour a little in each so I can better judge how much batter I have. Whoop. That's easier said than done. I think that's about right. Okay. I want to get it fairly even because I want the baking time. Since I've got them on the same baking sheet, I want the baking time to be pretty even. And so you should see it bubble up. There should be little bubbles like from it being whipped so long. And that's it. I have to taste it for sweetness, right? This goes off in the oven at 400 degrees. And I have to look and cheat on my time. It's going for 15 to 20 minutes. Now let me go ahead, put it in the oven. And what's gonna happen with it, so the texture, if people ask me, is it eggy? Okay, so there's 4 eggs in each Dutch baby. So yeah, it's gonna be a little eggy. That's kind of a main ingredient. But what you need to remember about the Dutch baby is that the longer it bakes, the more egg-like, the more kind of custardy it gets. When it bakes less time, then the texture is going to be different, and you'll see it. The texture also is different as it cools. So we're going to cut one warm. We'll put the other one in the fridge, and the longer it sits in the fridge, like if you give it several hours to fully cool down, the texture is more like a cheesecake. So when people ask me to describe a Dutch baby, it's really kind of hard to do because it's kind of like a big fluffy pancake, but kind of like a custard and a creme brulee, and yeah, it's all those things wrapped into one, but I can guarantee you it's a whole lot of delicious. So I'm gonna clean this up, and then 15 minutes we'll look at our Dutch babies. Hi, so our pumpkin spice Dutch babies are ready to come out of the oven. And I want you to see, David's gonna hand them to me because I want you to see what happens when they come out of the oven. So they're coming out, they are gorgeous. They're all like lopsided. Yeah, they're all lopsided and perfect. I know, lopsided's a thing, right? Lopsided's a good thing. So see, and you'll see them start to deflate as they go. And these are done. You can let them go a little bit further if you want to. They're gonna be slightly jiggly, but no, these are set. And so we can slice right into it and see what it tastes like. So I actually was working on another recipe while these were baking, and so that's got to go in the oven at 350. These have been at 400, so these have been at 400 for a good 15 minutes. Now the texture is different on these. I'm just going to tell you the texture is different when it cools, and you can see how it's kind of just deflated on me. This whole thing, I'm trying to remember the carbs, and the regular Dutch baby, the carb count on this is less than 1 carb. Now that's not counting the erythritol from the sugar alcohol, but it's less than 1 carb per serving. And this whole thing, I have it calculated at 6 servings. So this is certainly much smaller than 1/6 of a serving. And you'll see what it looks like. It just kind of looks like a custard. So I'll put it on there. And there's no crust, of course. And this looks really perfect. So it's hot. It's hot, and like I said, this is a very small portion. This is probably, I'm looking at this, probably an 1/8 of it. So I could have a 6 for 1 carb. When we add the pumpkin, we added a 1/4 cup of pumpkin puree per Dutch baby. So there's 10 total carbs in a 1/2 cup, 5 total carbs. So we've added less than 1 carb per serving. So this is still gonna be under 2 carbs per serving for 1/6 of a recipe. I love these. It really reminds me of a pumpkin custard. When it cools, it's even more like a pumpkin custard. You can enjoy this for breakfast or just with a cup of pumpkin pie spice or I don't know, dinner. David does not really care about the pumpkin spice. He really doesn't like anything eggy. But when he had the cold version, he loved it. Okay. I'm going to enjoy my pumpkin spice Dutch baby. And I hope that if you make it, that you and your family enjoy it too.